Hi everybody, this is Rich Gibbons with SpeakInc, and we are here with the one and only Shane Snow. Shane did a program for a trade group about 20 minutes ago. We're here in Vegas, and you look like you were having some fun on the platform.
It was a really fun event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I love doing this stuff anyway. Talking about big ideas is the best job in the world.
Yeah. And so this group are a bunch of super busy, smart people, and Shane's content is really around thinking in new ways and thinking more effectively about your problems, or solving problems. But for those that aren't familiar with your work out there in the interwebs, maybe give them just a little bit of a background on sort of where you came from and what that arc of experience was.
So I grew up in Idaho, and in a very small town where there's more cows than people, and my dad, though, was an engineer working at a nuclear test reactor. So I grew up taking tours of nuclear laboratories, and he was always tinkering with things. It's between Idaho and the engineer thing, we never had a repairman come do anything.
Oh, sure.
So I was always learning how to fix cars, how to take apart things, put roofs on houses, and I grew up with this sort of mindset from my dad that you can fix anything, but also you should take things apart and see how they work.
Right.
Explore, yeah, and understand the mechanics of why things work the way they work. Yeah. So we would take cars apart and put all the parts on the ground and look at them. And my brother and I built a go-kart based on, how a lawnmower works. And the other thing growing up that I think was unique for someone growing up in a place like Southeast Idaho is my mom was formerly a teacher for the hearing impaired, and she was really into education. She tricked my brother and I into reading thousands of books. Because my brother and I, we were really competitive, we kind of hated each other, we'd fight, so she orchestrated this competition that every month whoever read the most books got to go to Pizza Hut with her.
Oh, right.
And so we'd read hundreds of books. Yeah. And so I think my love of reading and writing and stories, plus my love of being curious and exploring and kind of like that engineering mindset,
was stoked by mom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so going from there, eventually I wanted to leave Idaho, and I didn't really appreciate that from my parents, until later.
Oh, of course.
But when I decided I wanted to do journalism, I decided I wanted to take that same kind of mindset of take things apart, see how they work, and put them back together. And that lends itself really well to science and technology and business. And so that's where I focused, got on to write books, and that's turned into...
And your three biggest stints were Wired Magazine, Washington Post, New Yorker.
So I worked with Condé Nast, Wired, New Yorker, GQ, and I did a lot. I've written the most for Fast Company, which is like the innovation magazine.
Right. And then you sort of pivoted out of that journalism experience and then got into writing books.
Yeah, and part of that was I was writing so much about innovation that I wanted to, I was always sort of entrepreneurial. I put myself through school building websites for people and until I could become a journalist. But I was writing about these fast-growing companies, these people inventing new things. So I was inspired to start a couple companies of my own. And as I did that, I missed writing so much that I started using journalism as an excuse to learn things from my own companies. So that's how my books started. My first book was about innovation and innovation mindsets and lateral thinking. And that was specifically because I wanted to help us get to the next level ourselves. And then from there, my other books have traced back to business problems that we've encountered, or big questions we've had, but that are also the questions I get from attendees at conferences. If I hear the same question over and over and over again, then I start exploring that. I either write an article about it or build it out into a book.
Right. Yeah, it catalyzes ideas. So Shane is a very bright guy who is talking about some pretty sophisticated concepts. Cognitive friction. What was the first one about?
Lateral thinking.
Cognitive
diversity.
Cognitive diversity, and then I can't remember the. There was so much meat on the bone in your program, but I could talk to Shane for hours. But one thing I'm curious about, and it sparked in my mind a couple minutes ago. There are people out there, albeit in a much more vocational setting. Mike Rowe. Other people like Mike Rowe who are bemoaning the dearth of can-do the ability to take things apart, the ability to build an IKEA table in the young adults that are, say, coming out of college now, you must have an opinion about that. Or maybe it's a jump ball for you.
I think that there's a lot of value in learning how to do things that are outside of your lane.
Right.
There's this prevailing idea that if you are the best, if you just focus on your one thing, you just go as deep as you can, that's how you become the best.
Right.
That's not how innovation happens. You don't make step function improvements. You don't level up very quickly or at all if that's your mindset. If you go outside of your lane and explore other things, and I think hands-on is for a lot of people that work in the information economy, going hands-on with things is a great way to import different perspectives into that lane that you're in. All things being equal, everyone that's in this lane is going to be constrained by what's in this lane, that perspective.
Right.
The person who plays the violin, the person who has a handyman thing on this side that actually learns how to do those things. Toilet breaks, you've learned how to fix it yourself. That kind of person will have an advantage over everyone in this lane because they'll bring kind of different ways of thinking back, different approaches. And that's, when you look at the history of innovation, that's how it happens every time. So Einstein is, everyone knows him as the great genius. People don't think about a lot is his job when he made his big breakthroughs in physics was looking at patents for all sorts of different things that are way outside of physics. He was looking at clock synchronization patents when he got the idea to have that space and time might be related. No one else who was working in physics had that idea because no one else was looking at clocks.
Right. Yeah.
So there's more to his genius than just his brain being great.
Right. But really, and that's aligned with a lot of what Shane talks about is diversity of thinking, diversity of experience, and really a lot of great content around thinking more innovatively. And also, we could talk about it for a half an hour, talking about diversity of teams and really leveraging that team from diversity inside your team from a leadership perspective. And so, very bright guy. There's a lot of meat on the bone here. If you're looking for something in the innovation realm, teamwork realm, Shane's your guy. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.